Cuttlefish, not cuttlefish, cuttlefish, cuttle. Today it's about cuttlefish. These are flamboyant cuttlefish.
We're sorry.
Cuttlefish. Cuttlefish. Hello and welcome to Sea-Friendly Reef, and today with Tobi and his cuttlefish. For those who are for the first time on this channel, in my opinion, these animals are the most fascinating creatures you can keep at home. How wonderful would it be if you could even breed them? This video is going to be a little more informative, so sorry for all the action guys, but I want you to learn something too. So when you see some eggs in your tank, what do you do?
First, I just let them be, to be honest, and that was not such a good idea. They're not doing well with stress. And that's why I have like this papers going on here on my tank at the moment. The eggs, they can't handle this stress. So the embryos, they just die inside the egg.
Okay.
You're like, oh my goodness, so cute. They're gonna hatch soon, and then they just dead. So that's why I put them now in my sump, in my reef tank. That's just so much better because it's closed, so you don't look inside all the time, and so they just can take their time to develop and hatch. So that makes it a lot easier to bring them actually to the point that they hatch, because I had many problems also causing because of snails and bristleworms. They've been all just eating the eggs as well and making holes in it.
Okay.
So I lost a lot, to be honest. Right now I have, just from my first batch, there's one survivor in here. I probably got 20 in my sump, but they're all doing great. They're all hatching at the moment. We just gotta check if we can feed them later on.
Yeah, would be great.
Because I have already 7 which hatched. They're super tiny. But yeah, when I have eggs, I move them, and it's also no problem to bring them onto the air. You just grab them, take them out, because they're in this little coconut shell. It's very easy. You just take them and dump them in there, and then you're done actually.
Nice. Okay. So you said that these animals are very, very stressful. Is a living room, for example, a good place for an aquarium while keeping these animals?
It depends how busy the living room is.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it's not busy here, but you tend to look at them all the time. I mean, the grown up ones, they can handle it a lot more, but if you plan on breeding them, it's just not really good, because they really stress so fast, and then they don't eat, then they stress, and obviously they die. You can't have success breeding them if you just have them somewhere very just busy all the time.
So the best way to breed these animals would be a separated room.
For an example, that would be good too. Or get a tank which is covered from 3 sides, and you just have like one window where you can actually check if everything's alright and see if they eat or not. That would help a little bit as well. Give them a lot of hiding spaces, and in a corner where it is not that busy in the room.
Okay, do you've got a secret recipe for keeping cuttlefish?
It's not actually a secret recipe I have, but you need to feed them live food. That is the main thing to do. That they will die if you feed them frozen way earlier. I mean, they will survive quite a time, but the nutritions are not the same, so they will just die at some point. The small ones don't eat frozen anyway, so you always need a constant supply with live food, mices or river shrimp, stuff like that. Yeah, the other thing is just keep your water quality on a top level, which is great for them. What I do is I have lots of macroalgae in there because they help me keep the tank clean and water stability really nice. So that's no issue then.
Also, they've got a lot of hiding places
in
these plants. Yeah, nice. So if you see these little eggs, when do you know when the animal is going to leave the egg?
That's quite weird to explain, because I mean, you see everything in those eggs, because they get more and more clear the closer it gets to the hatching time. They have this little yolk sac just hanging around there between their arms actually, and then you have this little triangle between their arms, and that's where the yolk sac usually is. The closer it gets to hatching, the smaller it gets, and then the arms start moving together, and when you reach this, that's basically the time when they're really close to hatch. Will be only a couple of days, and then they just pop out there.
Are the little ones directly able to hunt themselves, or do they need some special food in the first days?
No, the first days they still got some leftovers from the yolk, and they will just eat that the first couple of days, but then they are perfect little predators. They just start hunting straight away. But just little mini adults, they're just really small, but they're perfect. They're just exactly the same like the parents.
Can they also change the colors like the adult ones?
They can already change the color inside the egg. So if you're actually lucky, we can try and film it later on.
I hope so, yes.
Because usually they're really white and pale when they're in the egg. But the closer it gets to hatching, they start like flashing colors inside of the egg too, which is really cool. And so they can just do everything when they hatch. They're just ready to go.
If someone wants to buy these animals, what would you say to that person?
Don't do it!
Really? Really?
No, not really. They're the most amazing animals I ever had the pleasure to keep actually. But you need to be aware of a lot of things. First thing is the constant supply of live food. It's not easy to get all the time. It is expensive as hell, so you need to account that in. So you just spend a lot of money.
In the last video we checked that for 3 animals in Germany, and we had about 150 euros a month.
Yes.
Just for 3 animals.
Yeah.
Live food. That's very much. Yeah.
You need to feed them. Like if it would be perfect, you would feed them 3 times a day, which is a lot. And if you count like 1 to 2 shrimps per animal for each day, that's just a lot. That's insane. So you need a lot of that. And it's not just the money, it's also the time. It's really time consuming what you do. It's a constant feeding and always checking on them, especially if you breed them. You just have way much more work checking on the eggs, checking the water, and then you need a different source of food as well. The adults eat different things from the small ones. Feed them too much, they're stressed. Feed them too little, they're stressed. So it is not something I would recommend for everyone. So you need to be aware that there is a lot of things you need to take care of, and they're not as easy to keep as you might think, because they're really sensitive. They don't live long. They only live about 9 to 12 months. You can extend their life a little bit if you keep them a little bit cooler. If they go for like 25 to 28 Celsius, and if you keep them at 25, they don't age as fast as they would in 28 Celsius. So the metabolism just slows down. I mean, they still don't live longer than a year, but you can actually manage it a little bit like that. I had it with the eggs, it's the same thing. My tank has been up to 27 for a couple of days because it was so hot. The eggs just develop way faster than we did at 25 Celsius. So there's actually a lot going on, and it's so fast. I mean, the eggs take 31 days roughly to hatch, and you can just see it day by day that there is something happening. It's a really unique experience to actually get to see this and see them hatch and hunt for the first time. It's just magical. I wouldn't recommend them as a pet, but they're just the most amazing animal on this planet. So it's
2 sides. Okay.
It is. I mean, if you're willing to sacrifice your time and your money, and you're willing to set up a separate tank for them, it's the perfect animal. I mean, they're just not easy to get. that's the other side, but and they're really expensive too. I don't know if I would buy them again.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they're fascinating, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah. What for a kind of tank would you use to keep such an animal?
I would go for a shallow tank actually, because they're not really good swimmers.
They just walk, so
they walk mostly over the ground, yes. And there is not many cuttlefish that do that. It's probably just 2. I think the pajama squid is also not really good in swimming. The cuttlebone is bigger. That's why they have a better buoyancy and can swim better. And they just have a little tiny cuddle bomb, and that's why they're not good swimmers.
Oh, okay.
That's why a shallow tank would be cool too. I wouldn't go too big, to be honest. Like go over 120 to 200 liters maybe, because if it is too big, it's pretty hard to manage that everyone gets the food and to see them eating, and you just can have them a little bit more under control. Yeah, I would say. But
it's important to give them some hiding places.
Yes,
so not a clear tank without any stuff inside.
Yes, and need some stuff to hide, especially the coconuts if you plan on breeding them. I mean, they put the eggs on rocks too, but they go into those coconuts really easily. I just put it in and the next day she started laying eggs. Yeah. So, because that's another thing with cuttlefish, if they don't have the right space to lay eggs, they won't do it. They just don't reproduce, that's it. They just leave it, that's what it is. They just don't do anything.
Do you think that we are able to see some hatching today, or?
If we're lucky enough and we're patient, we might be. Fingers crossed!
Let's see. And yes, we waited a long time. A very long time, but then suddenly
yeah.
Nice, thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you like it. Feel free to subscribe the channel, like the video and so on, and see you next week. Thank you, Tobi.
Thank you.